Okay, picking up where I left off last week. I've been fooling with these bases. I had to recut a little bit off the bottom of this wing to get it to tilt at the exact angle to match the other side because this obviously is solid aluminum and it's not going to flex from side to side. So these have to be sitting at the exact same angle for this to deck off right at this and not cause problems. So I've just been working on the bases, trying to get them to be the same height from here to here while watching my angles. Make sure that it doesn't tilt too far one way or the other. One of the things you can see, the flatter quarter panels on the Superbird. And by the way, the Superbird, this wing mounts almost to the outside edge of the quarter panels on that car. So as you can see, I've got it in about an inch on this car, which I had to go ahead and cut out about an inch, which meant I had to retap and drill the ends. You can see the ends are solid here, so I had to make sure I had this this pinhole, and I drilled deep enough for the bolt to secure this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill a second hole back here because even though this pin is here, this pin was just meant to limit the travel of the wing up and down, but it's not enough. It's too close to this pivot point here to actually keep the wing from dropping under its own weight. And this thing weighs a ton because it's solid. The original wings were made of aluminum extrusion, so they were hollow, except for these areas here where you could tap them out and put pins in. At any rate, I'm going to put a pin in, a push pin, steel pin, a case hardened steel pin back this far. So what I'm doing over here on this other upright right now is I've made this drill jig here, and it's based off of the existing pin. That's the bolt that normally holds the wing on, so I've got that just clearanced, so that'll fit through. Then this is just clearance to fit over the existing pin, so that'll give me my alignment there. And what I'll do is I'll run that bolt back through here, and then I'll tighten the nut down on top of that. And then I've got a exact quarter inch hole here to drill into this upright piece, and that's where the stationary pin will be located, like this, but over here. Then I'll take this same jig, I'll flip it around like this and apply it to the wing section. I'll bolt it right to the wing section and align it with a pin, and then drill out the corresponding hole. But on the wing itself, I'll just go one size over, drill bit size over, so that it slides in easy but doesn't have a lot of travel. At any rate, that's what I'm up to right now. It's a little tedious because this is it's almost got machine tolerances for everything. So I wanted to make sure I had everything right before I hand it off to be welded. Another area that I forgot to mention here is these feet, the way they are compared to how they mount to the Superbird. Superbird has a flattish quarter panel, and so these are up about 1/4 of an inch, so I haven't figured out exactly what I want to do there yet. I'm probably going to try and see if I can get a little bit of aluminum welded onto the bottom side here so I could regrind this edge to get it to conform. But then again, I don't know how my quarter panel is going to, this quarter panel is going to come up, and it's going to flatten out when I do the widening aspect of it, but more so up there than back here. So I don't know how much this is going to be lifted over here. It says, like I said, this is only 1/4 of an inch. So if this is wider here, this might, be a better situation where I could just take the sheet metal and just gently roll it up and into this wing surface here, and then back down to the quarter panel here, and have a graduated blend out over here, because this is going to get wider and flatter as we go forward. So I'll just have to see what that's going to look like. It's kind of a chicken and an egg situation. I tried taking these feet loose and then rotating them a little bit. That was a fiasco. I mean, I got it to do that, but I had so many different brackets and bolts on here, it was ridiculous. and it was a mess, and I had big gaps, and you know, that would have caused some issues with the welding. Bottom line is I rotated them back and got them straightened up and down. I may end up just grinding more off this back edge where it's contacting the top of the quarter panel over here, and then we can body work that back up with a little Bondo later on just to make it look a little bit better, a little thicker, and then I'll drop the whole thing down. But that has to yet be determined. But it's going to depend on, like I said, a couple other things. Like I said, once I got these rotated to where they were flat and sitting flat on this piece that doesn't go straight out like the Superbird, these things look like they kicked over quite a bit. So it was kicked over, then it came up and it turned, and kind of looked kind of hideous. So I undid all that and straightened that out. And like I said, I only narrowed this center section. I said 1 inch, but actually it was only 3/4 of an inch. I was sneaking up on it, and I thought, well, I got back looking at the car with the wider doors and the wider fenders. I said, when this gets wider quarter panels, this thing here, if I narrow it too much, because it's already leaning in compared to the Daytona stood straight up, because it's more center lined on the quarter panel with the upright where these are leaned in. I said, this thing might just look like it's too small side to side, so I left it wider than it would normally be on the Daytona. There's the center line. The old compressor coming on. Anyway, like I said, there's the center line right there. And then this is where I would normally have had to pull it over. This gives me a lot of gap between when I open the deck lid also. There's a nice wide gap there, about 1.5 inches. And so I'm leaving them a little wide. I don't think I need to pull them in any further than that. They look fine sitting at least 1 inch off the edge over here right now. And like I said, this will widen out a little bit as it comes out and then goes into that door over there. Okay, so I've settled on the location of the wing now, and I've done a good bit of grinding on the base of the wing, trying to get it to conform as best I can to this sheet metal here. And I've taken a pattern, the bolt pattern off the bottom face of the wing, and transferred it here to the top of the quarter panel. I'm going to drill it out now. It's not just as simple as bolting this down to this quarter panel, because this is just sheet metal, and these are pretty heavy pieces here, so there'll be some support that I have to put all the way down and tie into the bumper outriggers when I eventually get this quarter panel off. But also, before I can do that, I have to make a secondary plate, probably out of 70 thousandths, that will bolt under here to strengthen up this area here so that it doesn't pucker and wiggle. Anyway, got to drill these out and see how that goes. All right, with the holes drilled out and the wings test fitted through the holes, it's time to make the wing washers, which are basically plates that go underneath to help strengthen up the quarter so that it doesn't cave this quarter panel in. So that's what I'll be up to next. All right, so been making the wing washers. Now, what the wing washer is basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's a piece of sheet metal that's underneath the quarter panel on the inside of the trunk that's meant to disperse and distribute the load of the wing across the sheet metal. If you bolted the wing directly to the quarter panel, it could, under load, it could tear right out of the sheet metal. So you have to have something substantial underneath the quarter panel to bolt through. And while the stock or factory versions of this wing washer are stamped sheet metal that have a bunch of ridges on them to strengthen them up, I wasn't able to do that based on the equipment that I have. So I come up with my own version of it. I've taken some 045 metal, and the first thing I did was shape it to the quarter panel. As you can see, this is the outer edge of the quarter panel on the driver's side of the car, and this is the trunk edge over here. And drilled through with the pattern that's already drilled into the top of the quarter panels for mounting the wing. And on the bottom side, what I've done is I've created these ribs out of 60 thousandths steel, and they're bent over at 1/2 inch and shrunk and stretched to the same shape, and then they were rosette welded, plug welded through here to this top piece, so that you have about 100 thousandths of metal here, which is almost 1/8 of an inch thick here. And what that does is create a side-to-side strength to keep this thing from rolling side to side, which the aluminum wing is much stronger than the fiberglass wing, I gotta say. So once it's bolted together, it's pretty rigid structure, so I don't think we'll have any lateral movement. But then I've got this brace going across here, joining everything together with a couple of drill holes, and this will be obviously pointing in the down direction once it's in the car. This gives me 2 mounting points to run some support down to an extension that I'll put off the bumper structure, which is pretty substantial right now. It's 2x2 steel that's creating the bumper extension. It's holding up the back of the car. So I'll extend off of that, and then I'll make a mount that'll attach here. That'll keep anything from caving in the top of the quarter panel, hopefully. What I'm in the process now is I've decided to show you this before I painted it up, because it's a little bit hard to see all of what I've got going on here. But once this is in the car, you could see that I'll have a downward facing flange that'll be able to through bolt. It'll be a little bit difficult to get to put the nuts on the wing, on the studs on the wing, but it just had to be this confined area. It's a little tough to work in. So on this right side of the car, I already have installed the wing washer. I merely bolted it up tight through the existing mounting holes that I've drilled in here for the wing, and drilled some 3/16 holes and rosette welded it just to keep it from rattling or shifting around underneath that quarter panel there. So anyway, that's what I'm up to now. I'm going to mount this one up after I paint it up, and we'll move on from there. Okay, my favorite part, working inside the trunk, bent over and crooked up and not being able to see what I'm doing. Good times. Anyway, what I've done here is now that both of these wing washers are in, and you can see there's the flange, I've got these plumb bobs taped through the holes that are already drilled in the flange, in the front and in the rear. And that gives me a target of where to go to with my support structure that I'll be working off of this. There's these bumper extensions right here. So I've got both sides plumbed up, and we'll move on from here. Okay, so I've taken a piece of this 2x2 tubing. I've notched it out so I could correct for the angle. The 2 outriggers are on an uphill slope, and I needed to notch this tube asymmetrically so that it would lay flat, even with what will actually be the end of this this decking here. So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see where the tabs will land for connecting this support structure to the upper support structure, the bottom of the wing washer itself. I've taken a piece of 1/4 inch material and cut it to 2 inches. Right now I'm doing basically a physical layout of how I want to cut this tubing and what I want to add to the end over here before I put the whole mess together. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've taken this cross tube here and I welded it up all the way around to these outriggers. Now I have this piece over here that I've capped it on the back side, keep water out of it, and the front side, and it's welded on the bottom side to the car itself. So this is a pretty strong structure that from here up to this flange underneath here, which I don't know if we can see that or not, the light's not very good, but anyway, we're going to I'm going to put a little bridge up to that, something that you can reach around, because you have to be able to get in there and tighten the bolts to the wing. And yeah, now this is very solid and it's attached to the car in a solid way. It might seem like a little bit of overkill because the original cars had the wing mounted to the quarter panel with a wing washer, and then they had a couple of sheet metal flanges that came down in a Y shape and then bolted to this trunk extension, which was just pretty much just sheet metal there. It's heavy sheet metal, but sheet metal just the same, and that's all that supported the wing. It's a pretty heavy wing. It's about 90 pounds. But at any rate, the race car version of that, it had two large, 1 inch pipes, 1 inch or 3/4, going all the way up through and into the wing itself, and then screwed through the inside face of the wing, and then they came all the way down and had welded feet that landed on a plate back here. It was still on top of sheet metal, but the sheet metal was reinforced at the bottom here in order to bolt down the wing with these two pieces of steel tubing going up through the wing. So they wanted to make sure that the weight of the wing was completely supported all the way down. The street version, it wasn't as important. You're not going to be doing 200 miles an hour with the street version. But just to be safe, we've secured this so that it's actually secured to the car itself, and it's quite substantial. At any rate, I'm going to be making that bridge next, and then I'll install it. I was going to, on my car, I had a couple of tabs, top, bottom, and I had adjusters because the wing was flexible. It was fiberglass, so I had to sort of like twist the top of the quarter panel a little bit in order to get it just right, side to side. So I needed adjustment on both of these things. The wing itself determines everything, because it's, once you bolt it together, it's solid. You're not twisting it, you're not doing anything with it. So we're following on from there, and so there's no reason to have any kind of adjuster in here with this support. So I'm going to put a solid bridge from this point to that point there, and I'll show you what that looks like next. All right, so I've just gone ahead and made this bridge structure up here with some 049 wall 5/8 square tubing, and as you can see right here, this is the high point on the quarter panel where it'll intercept those the tab at the top that is on the wing washer, and this will go down to the base to that piece of 2x2 tubing that goes parallel with the center line of the car. Okay, as with everything I do on this project or any other project, there's always something that has to be done before the thing you wanted to do. So I was going to put that bridging in, connect that extension there up to the top underneath the wing washer. But so instead of that, what I'm doing is I'm creating the floor extension to close out to the rear roll panel here. So the reason I'm doing that is because rather than work around my bridging, I will put this piece of sheet metal down here first, and then I will go to the top of the sheet metal, which will be right on top of my 2x2 material. So, and that's what I'm up to. And like I said, there's always something else that's got to be done before the thing you want to do. All right, so this is the corner closeout panel finished. Threw a couple of bead rolls in there to kind of just stiffen it up a little bit, and it's drilled out every 1.5 inches with 3/16 holes, so I can plug weld it right down to that frame that I installed in there. And this is my clearance for where my bumper bracket comes up at an angle, and then the perimeter, of course, will be spot welded every 1.5 inches also. Okay, so there it is with the floor closure done on that side, and the little tower brace that I decided to make to hold this wing up. This area is nice and solid now. It also achieves my main goal, and that was to make sure that these quarters don't drop once I cut away the outer skin of the quarter panel. So that establishes our wing height. Everything's fixed there now, so it won't be affected when I take this vertical section off of the quarter panel. Anyway, we're about to rinse and repeat, I should say, on this side over here. So back to work. Okay, so I went ahead and put the other floor panel in over there in the corner and the tower, and went ahead and put the center section, the final piece of the closure that closes up the existing car to the older car. And let's see if we can see underneath here what's going on now. Okay, so as you can see here, there's the bumper extensions. Here's that piece that goes from side to side. It supports the ends where the wing supports are over here, and then the floor is overlaid over top of that and rosette welded. I have to go back in here and seam seal all these openings here to seal the trunk from the exhaust. We don't want to get the exhaust in the cabin. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, trying to get the seam seal together and put it all up in there. Anyway, moving on. So there it is, mounted up, and it's pretty stout. It looks pretty good, and it feels pretty good too. It's really solid compared to the fiberglass wing I got on my car. We've got some nice gapping between the deck lid and the uprights, which is what I was looking for. We've got good clearance top to bottom. We don't hit the wing with the deck lid. It's also important, not to chip the paint. But that's about all I'm going to do on this right now. So until I get it welded up, which my buddy's coming over today to take a look and see if there's anything else I need to do to get it prepped for him to weld up. And then hopefully sometime next week or in the next week or two, we'll get it welded up and he'll get it back to me, and then we'll see how this thing looks all in one piece. Anyway, the next thing I'm going to have to do is start jumping into extending my rockers out to match my doors, at least to this point right now. And once I get to this point, that'll be time to start cutting off these quarter panels and get into that whole operation, which is going to be very challenging, being it's such a large part and I have to handle it myself. But I've got a few ideas. Hopefully they'll work out. At any rate, that's all I have time for this week, and I will see you on the next one.